Testing 1, 2. Testing. Is Callie here? Okay. Charlotte Saxter. That was the only other people on my list. Right. So I'm a very big nerd. All right. I'm very nerdish about marketing, retailing, and those kinds of things. And you'll find that out about me. So one of the great stores of all time, equal to Target and Walmart in its day, was JCPenney. JCPenney was a department store equal to Sears at the time as well. Multiple departments, all the way from electronics to fashion to automobile repair, just you name it. It was Sears was that level at that time as well. JCPenney found, unfortunately, that their particular market was one that they were concerned about because it was predominantly professional women between the ages of 25 and 45, making anywhere from 75 to 150,000 a year. They were concerned in that particular market segment whether or not they would be survivable as a corporation. So around 2013, 2014, they had this bright young individual, or the bright CEOs, who decided they were going to go to Apple. And they were going to get the individual who came up with Apple Maps to become their CMO, their chief marketing officer. All right. Anybody know how Apple Maps turned out? Pretty horrible. All right. Interesting thing about Apple Maps. All right. Who's an Apple person in here? Yeah, a lot of people are. One of the things about you as individuals in your market segment is you demand perfection from the moment it comes out. Individuals like myself who are Google users, we're used to clunky things and not quite working. But when you'd hit that system crash thing and you would hit the button that says system crash, what happens is that information would go upstairs to Google, up the internet. They would figure out and resolve itself. And in 6 months, Google Maps becomes darn good. All right. Well, the problem is that Apple people don't have that time. They figure in essence, they expect a level beyond just simply that. So anyway, I'm going on. I'm sorry. Apple Maps was a bomb. So this guy that created a bomb, they wanted him to go to JCPenney's and work his magic there. So his magic was such that JCPenney's went into bankruptcy in 2020. So it took him about 6 years to pull the firm down. He did things, unfortunately, like he was trying to change things too fast, and realize this also is you're leaving your predominant market segment behind you. And that's one of those difficult things. It's not wrong to prepare yourself to hold on to your present and reach for the future. I mean, everybody does that, but they left the major groups behind. And so here we are. So fast forward 2020, JCPenney gets bought out of bankruptcy by a corporation that starts to go around and very slowly buy other mall locations like Rue 21 and a couple of others. And they're bought not by a retail establishment, but by a mall establishment. In other words, they're bought, the landlords bought the company. Okay. So not only did that, Simon and Brookfield take over as landlords, but now what's happened? Oh, please get out of my way. All right. JCPenney has now merged with all of these other stores to create what's called a catalyst, and they're injecting $1 billion into malls across the United States with 8 or 9 anchor stores that they themselves own. And one of them is JCPenney. All right, I picked on that side yesterday. I'm gonna pick on this side. So what do you think about the landlords? So I've got 100 buildings and I've got 100 retail outlets, but I own 10 of them myself. What kind of difficulties could you see that causing? What would you think? So I'm a landlord and I bought a retail company, and what they do is they sell to end users. What am I as a landlord? I sell location spaces. Could there be some difficulty of me understanding what goes on in a retail? Yeah, absolutely, it would have that. Not only that, but think of this. What about the other 90 stores that are in my mall, and I've got 10 of them that I own? That's where you can see where conflict is one of those things that in retail and in channels we study, and we study a lot, because those are the major obstacles to success, conflict. And so it's going to be interesting. I'm going to watch this for quite a while. I thought about writing a case on it. You've actually got landlords who think that they're retailers, and it might work. It might be brilliant. But one of the things they're going to have to do is they're going to have to overcome the fact that they no longer have the illusion of neutrality. So think about that. I own this company here, but you pay me. Am I going to favor one store over another store in my mall when this one store I own myself? That's the kind of things they have difficulty with. Broyhill, North Carolina. Broyhill runs a company store. Think about the conflict and the edges of neutrality between an independent retailer who sells Broyhill furniture and the fact that Broyhill sells their own as well. So these are kinds of things that go on when we're talking about channels and the inner conflicts, the desires that the manufacturers have because they want to sell everything, and the retailers who want to control everything. And so it gives you an idea where the conflicts start to evolve. All right. So enough of my preaching. So let us get to our slides. Okay. And so we talked about what marketing channel strategy is. I will go back a slide, and channel strategy is the set of activities that are focused on designing, managing, and delivering in the marketing channel to enhance a firm's sustainable competitive advantage. There is no more powerful corporation when it comes to its channel's efficiency, Walmart. And yet Walmart is the number one, the number one employer in the world. Walmart employs nearly 2.7 million, now almost to 3 million people worldwide. They're the largest private employer in the United States. Number one, of course, is the federal government. Retailing is very, very intense. And one of the ways that they're able to offset that is to be as efficient in channels as they possibly can. Why? Because that's its strategy. And if they do that well, certain things like satisfaction might not be as important to consumers as it is to have value. So one of the great models about Walmart is, we always talk in marketing before we got to 2005 definitions about satisfaction, that everybody as a consumer wants to be satisfied in their product. So how many of you were satisfied the last time you went into Walmart? Have you ever walked out and go, man, that was such a great experience?
I went to the one near my home recently, and I thought it looked a lot nicer than the last time I went into it. Like they had mannequin displays I've never seen before.
That is Walmart's 5-year plan. Very good. But before that, it was really hard. But yes, Walmart has gone through a major upgrade, and you're absolutely right. Customer satisfaction also is up since 2019 by 10%. You know how? They gave all 2.8 million people a pay raise. Isn't that surprising? You just pay your employees more and they're happier. Like radical, okay? But one of the things before then is Walmart. People hate Walmart. It was ranked 8th in total overall satisfaction in terms of retail. Target's number 1. But why do people go? Well, in marketing, we would explain it as perhaps that consumers are not as valuable as satisfaction as it is value. That consumers appreciate value, and if you have enough value in something, they'll overcome anything to be able to attain that value. And so it isn't an excuse for satisfaction because long-term you need it, but consumers desire the ability to find value. And that is one of the things that an efficient channel structure system does. It adds value. So now let's talk about who are the players. Who are the players in marketing? Please don't squeak. Thank you. All right. So who participates in the marketing channel? There are three key entities in marketing channels. They are manufacturers. These are names and place markers, but there's more than just saying they're a manufacturer. So you've got to think beyond just what the word is. Intermediaries, bless you, and end users. Now, this is a test question that I don't want you to miss. And that is the concept of what a channel captain is. So what is a channel captain? A channel captain takes the keenest interest in the channel process. That is what a channel captain is. The channel captain does not have to necessarily be the manufacturer. So the manufacturer is the prime mover of the goods moving through the channel system and maintaining the links, excuse me. But they don't necessarily have to be the channel captain. So in 1994, in the Harvard Business Review, Venkatesh wrote that in the marketing channel system, where manufacturers were number one in this group, the prime movers in channels have shifted to intermediaries. And now channel intermediaries have become many times the channel captains and the prime movers. So in the 90s, picking on this side again, in the 90s, what big retail organization really started getting its head of steam? Which retail outlet would you think that might be? It's so dominated that it started, small retail outlets started closing across the United States. I've already said the name of it today. One retail outlet. Yes, thank you. Walmart? You were going to say Walmart. Okay, I know it. Okay, so yes, Walmart. Walmart has flipped the model and they have become the prime movers of what goes through their system. And Walmart is the corporation that has manufacturers lining up to be able to distribute their goods, and they do it with absolute effectiveness. So 2006, 2005, LG Electronics were just starting to get their feet under them and came up with the first relatively solid, relatively inexpensive high-density television. HD TV was in its infancy at around 2004, 2005. So LG Electronics, fascinating discussion about how they rebranded themselves. They used to be known as Gold Star. They made products that were crap. I know because I worked in the computer industry during that time. They said, maybe we're not doing things right. They merged with another company called Lucky, which was a distributing icon in South Korea, and they became Lucky Gold Star, or LG. And they took the LG and they turned it into a brand mantra, which is life's good. Okay, so they're coming out of all of this tough stuff. They realized they did such a bad job a decade ago, and memories are forever. They had to find a way of being able to distribute these goods in an effective manner, and they chose Walmart to distribute a single distributor for all of their products worldwide. And for 3 years in a row, LG was the #1 seller of consumer electronics because they made the right choice. And Walmart was right at that point where they were needing some kind of blockbuster thing to move their electronics departments, and the rest, as they say, is history. So, 3, manufacturers, intermediaries, and end users. So let's start talking about them one at a time. So the definition that you're going to need for the test of what a manufacturer is the producer or originator of the product. It is the producer and the originator of the product. They can make these things themselves, or they can buy these things and slap their own name on it. It all depends. Branded manufacturing is like Apple. The manufacturers brand their products. Those products are known to end users. And because of the word I want to use, respect that consumers of Apple products have for the products themselves, that's why this laptop here has a 40% margin on its sale price, and the Hewlett Packard has a 6% margin. It is because the consumers of Apple products are willing and happy to spend that. But you can be a manufacturer and you can produce products, but you don't necessarily have to go through the hassle of starting and creating your own brand name. Has anybody ever heard the name ASUS? ASUS. So way back when I was almost as young as you, I worked for a computer store in Lafayette called Omni Computer Stores. We built our own computers and we used, our own products to build our PCs. And one of the board manufacturers was ASUS. And ASUS had a great reputation at that time. They were known as bulletproof. They wouldn't short out. They always worked. And so what happened is a lot of manufacturing guys like us, we just went on the same line with ASUS and, everything was happy. 40 years later, I have an ASUS motherboard now in my gaming PC. So, it's funny how things go. Of course, now my GPU is like this big, okay? Instead of that big. I'll send you a picture of it. I'll bring it to maybe Tuesday. ASUS is a great example of a branded manufacturer whose quality and reputation became so well known that their private label became a branded product. So you do have transitions. Lenovo, which is my favorite laptop, originally came from IBM, who was wanting someone to manufacture their ThinkPads. So Lenovo was in Taiwan. Lenovo was once again a private label manufacturer. And when IBM got out of the laptop industry in 2007, they sold the rights. That's why Lenovo is in essence IBM's, patents, okay? IBM patents are inside Lenovo's machine, so take it for what. Okay. Anyway, so these are manufacturers. Now, it also means that because you lack a physical product doesn't mean that a service company is not a manufacturer. Case in point, H&R Block. You can be the manufacturer of a service, and that can be used by independents as well. It's just a little harder. What is the haircutting place? Same thing, okay? You can, in essence, be the manufacturer of a service. Okay, manufacturer, number one. The second is intermediaries. The very simplest definition of an intermediary is that's anyone who's not a manufacturer or an end user. That's the easiest definition. They are any channel member other than the manufacturer or end users. This rare group, by the way, folks, if you are part of an intermediary and if you want to go wholesaling is a good life, specialized intermediaries are as well. Retailing's still pretty rough. It's the wild frontier right now, but it's pretty awesome too. So let's talk about what wholesalers are first. So wholesalers have a broad range. In terms of what do we call them? We've called them merchant wholesalers. They can be distributors. They can be manufacturers, representatives. They're a unique group of individuals that are in wholesaler. What is the primary description of a wholesaler? Is they sell to other channel intermediaries, but not to individual consumers. Now, do they break their own rule? Yes, of course, but they're predominant. Basically, what their business is built on is they're built on selling to other intermediaries instead of the ultimate consumers. We'll talk about title and physical possession a little bit later, but they take title and physical possession, and what that means is that the wholesaler controls the product. It is out of the hands of the manufacturers, and the wholesalers can set prices and they can perform excuse me, they can perform promotion. And so what'll happen is a manufacturer will sell to a wholesaler. The wholesalers will be specialized. We'll talk about all this later, but I want to kind of give you an idea. The wholesalers have their own special groups and they sell to retailers. And these individuals are specialized in whatever the manufacturers bring, and their salespeople sell to the retailers. And this is how we talked about push. Okay. In essence, they sell downstream. The retailers, they have their own salespeople. Those retailers, with their salespeople, they sell theirs finally to consumers, and that's how the magic works. Okay. Because of this thing that the wholesalers do, their major functions, promotion, pushing down, and negotiation. I urge you, if you have any openings in your schedules, I know you want to just get out, I get it. But if you have a possible way to take a class in negotiation, it may be the best thing you ever do, or leadership. I mean, I wish I would have had a class in leadership when I came out. I would understand what people were doing. Anyway, so promotion and negotiation. Those are the number 1 and 2 things that wholesalers do. Retail. We all know what a retail is. Department stores, mass merchandisers, hypermarkets. The definition is that they sell directly to individual consumers. Retailing is still massive. Retailing is still surprisingly done predominantly in retail stores. But what I mean by that is consumers still desire to go face to face. And it is interesting the category of goods that consumers will purchase online or purchase in the store. Have you bought electronics online? Yep. Have you bought, well, let me think. Have you bought a tailored suit online? No. Have you bought a suit online?
I'm not.
No, because why? Because consumers have what's called the need to touch. We need to have the visceral feel of what jewelry looks on us, beauty products, and whatever we wear. There is no surprise that if you look at like Warby Parker, what's the number 1 thing you can do with Warby Parker online? Yes, try your frames on online. Exactly. Because it's a very visceral thing. We love that interaction with the products we sell. We make them our own. And so retailing in its essence will not necessarily go away. I went to Concord Mills before Christmas with my daughters and lived to tell about it. Fortunately, we got there at 11 o'clock and we walked right into the stores. My daughter's in the anime. You have no idea. Does anybody know who Akira Misu is? Miku. It's a holographic image that goes to concerts. Yes, my daughter's into that. Okay, it's amazing. But anyway, she found the place and it was like a 9-foot action figure. But that's what you can do at a Concord Mills. Leaving at about 2 o'clock, the line to the Concord Mills was almost 2 miles long. Okay, retail still has a place. I used to say, so my wife bought, Dr. Albinson, you can ask her about this. She bought 4 wedding dresses. Seriously, okay? She bought 1 for the ceremony, 1 for the pictures, 1 for the after party that we had, and 1 to jump in the lake with. I thought that was kind of the thing they were doing at the time. And she bought 2 of them online, I think. 1, I think. And one time I actually said, how many of you would buy a wedding dress online? And I actually had 2 women that said, yeah, I've bought it online. It's amazing how the world changes. All right, retail intermediaries. The last specialized intermediaries perform 1 or 2 channel functions in order to facilitate the channel process. They perform one or more channel functions to facilitate the channel process. They can be catalyst firms, and by that what I mean is they don't have anything to do with the channel environment, but maybe do one narrow thing like shipping. They can be advertising corporations. They can be shippers. And then even more, they can be finance companies. If you ever drive by a automobile car lot, all right, I got to pick on this side. If you drive by an automobile car lot, how many cars do you see there? Yes.
150.
Yeah, that's a great guess. Somewhere 100, 150. How much do you think each one of those cars cost?
It's a dealership.
Right. How much do you think it costs the dealership, each one of those cars? Each one.
10,000.
At least.
Right.
And if you're talking about like the big Ford F-250s, you're talking 50 or 60,000. Multiply that by their parking lots. How much inventory or money is stacked out there in the snow right now? I mean, 20 million? Who has 20 million? How does that happen? Well, this is how it happens. So corporations, GE, General Electric, and Westinghouse, you'd be surprised, have other specialized functions that help facilitate the process. Has anyone in supply chain heard of the concept of warehousing? Okay, you'll learn something new, supply chainers. Take this to Dr. Dinesh and said, Dr. Shouse knows more than you. God, I'll never hear it. Anyway, so warehousing. I am a dealership. I am Modern Subaru. I have a franchise, a name right franchise to Subaru, which means that I can sell their automobiles. But in a name right franchise, what I have to do is buy those cars first from Subaru, and then I've got to sell them. And so basically what it means is that by the time they get to a dealership, Subaru corporate, it's out of their hands. They're not doing anything with it. So how do they get these cars? Let's say you're supposed to sell 100 cars in a month, maybe 200. It's not surprising. I went to a small dealership in Alabama where I got my son's car, and they're selling like 45 cars online every month. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of turnover, but how do you buy 100 cars? So this is what you do. You're required by Subaru to buy 100 cars in a month. You call up GE Capital or Westinghouse Financing and you say, I've got 100 cars coming in. It's going to cost me $20,000 a piece. I need a check for $2 million. And Westinghouse goes, fine. All right. Westinghouse sends the $2 million check to Subaru. The cars get to Modern Subaru, and then it's called warehousing. Basically, what it means is that they have financed your entire inventory. Or you have not spent anything on it yet. All right. So let's say you buy these 100 cars and you sell 75 of them. So what happens in a month is at the end of the month, Modern Subaru writes a check for those 75 cars that they sold, and then they make an interest payment on the remaining 25. And that's how the modern world works. Without specialized intermediaries, these kind of things wouldn't happen. I don't know if I have this on a test, but this is an important point I want to make. More members in a channel system is a marker for an efficient system. The more channel members there are, the more efficient the channel system is. However, where are we now? We're actually pulling in both directions. We've got more people in the channel system, but we've got individuals selling directly to consumers. And so we have that happening as well, okay? And so what this process is, test question coming up. This process of removing channel members is what's called disintermediation. Disintermediation, which is the removal of channel members from the channel system. Okay. Watch it. This is why I need a new leg. I trip all the time. So, disintermediation, the removal of channel members from the channel system. It doesn't mean you remove the functions. The functions must occur. And if you remove the members, you have to still perform the functions that are in the channel environment, which means this: if you take out someone who's doing payment, you've got to be able to provide payment in there somewhere. If you're not doing information technology, if you're taking away whatever specialized company you have, you still have to perform those functions. And so specialized intermediaries are part of a broad, efficient system, but disintermediation is a common occurrence now, and it's growing. So these are the forces that are pulling things apart. If more members mean a more efficient system, are my consumers able to get what they want when I take one of the members away? That's a critical thing to think about, all right? Do my hotel guests, are they happy with the fact that I will only go in and change their bed if they insist? I don't know. Anyway, so specialized intermediaries. And the last member, and this is definitely a 10-point question. I hope this is the first class who everyone gets this right, is end users. End users are channel members, and this is the big difference, especially between us and supply chain. The reason is that they can and do perform channel functions. So I had somebody did Costco in here? So if I went to Costco and got toilet paper, would I get one roll? No. How many? Like 108, something like that. Yeah. I mean, that's the way Costco does. Not only that, but Costco sells it at cost. So instead of, well, I'm just going to throw numbers out, $20, I'll give them bigger, $40 for 108 rolls. They sell it at 20. Why? Because you'll perform the channel function of breaking bulk. You'll take those things, perform the things that happen in standard marketing channels. You'll take the toilet paper out and spend 30 minutes trying to, distribute it to the rest of your neighbors on the street, okay? Because that's the way it works. Generally, as a rule of thumb, and this is just kind of a business idea, is that usually retailers will give you a break for performing channel functions. In essence, you have a skin invested in what you do. Now think of the magic of when you go online and you order something from Amazon, all right? You're the one who does the looking, you're the one who does the selection, you're the one who does the buying, you're the one who sets up the delivery system, and you're the one eventually who decides whether the product is valuable or not. You do everything yourself. And that is the reason why, if you do it yourself, it generally means that you're going to spend less money. Okay, So these are our three members. So with all this rigmarole going around, and all of this busy work, the answer that you could probably ask yourself in a modern world where you could theoretically live the rest of your life just ordering everything online, why do all these channels exist? But in essence, I can perform all of them. Well, there are big reasons, not only for you, but for the members upstream and the members downstream. So let's do this first. Let's talk about the downstream channel. If you were going to look, oh, let me think of something reasonable to think of. So let's say you're going to go look. Let's say you're going to look for a new tablet. And you might have already established what you want in your own head, okay? But one of the things, the advantages for a downstream channel is that you have the ability to facilitate the consumer's search process. What do I mean? Well, I bought a 75-inch television 3 years ago when I finally made tenure. And I got Dr. Albinson to say yes before she ever saw what a 75-inch television looked like. And realized we had to redesign our living room because of it. She loves it now. You know, first time she had to back up like 20 feet to be able to see it. Anyway, however, how was I going to go about making that decision? Well, the most obvious one that I would make is to see how good it looked. And where could I find that? And there's really, in Boone, you go to Walmart, okay? And so that's what a downstream member brings, okay? Now, I also want you to think of a modern supermarket. Here I am getting to be a nerd again. Modern supermarkets have anywhere from 52 to 154,000 separate items. And yet, how can you possibly go into a store with 50 to 150,000 separate items and get out of there in 10 minutes? How? Well, there's an answer why. Because the stores help facilitate the process. The first thing that they do is they sort things out. So let's say they've got a delivery from Del Monte, and they've got a delivery from Van Camp, and all of these things that are coming in these different cans and these different types, is you take out this heterogeneous group of things and you start sorting them into homogeneous things like condiments. I said condiments. Okay, so mustards, ketchups, mayonnaise, those kind of things. You start to be able to sort them out. You take and accumulate those stocks and you bring a larger supply of those things together. And then you break them down, you allocate them into smaller and smaller groups. And then what you do is you have an assortment of those products, all inefficient, and every one of us knows exactly where those goods are in every supermarket we go through. Because the efficiencies of retailing are such, and the real efficiencies of supermarkets are such that they can only make 2% margin on everything that they sell. So think about that. A supermarket could sell $1 million worth of goods and only make $20,000. Anybody want to guess there's a place in the store where they make more money than anything else? Most stores have them. You don't have to have them to be a supermarket, but you'll see them usually in the beginning or front of every store. What is the thing in any supermarket that makes the most money? Pardon? Candy. Close. Well, kind of close, but that's a good one. Okay, now, they do more than just buy canned goods. That's a hint. What do they make more money off of than any other place in the store? They make 40 to 60% margins.
Alcohol?
No, but that's a good one. It's like 15% on alcohol.
What was the question.
All right. Supermarkets make 40 to 60% margin in one department. All stores do, okay? It's the reason that they have them there in the first place. They don't need them to sell canned goods. That's another hint. No,
Butcher, like bakery,
but pardon?
the butcher.
Yes, the butcher and the deli, absolutely, okay? It is the reason why that if you have like the, the discount things, that the highest discounts are generally in the meat department because that's where they have the greatest margins, okay? That's the reason why they exist. And so when you have a deli and you're making things like sushi now, the one that gets me, Lowe's Food Supermarket, which is my local grocery, they have a bar inside of a supermarket. And I just look at that and I go, a bar inside of a supermarket. I guess why not? But damn, buy groceries, get drunk, go home. Anyway, sorry. So anyway, what do intermediaries do? They create possession utility. You get the goods when you need it. They put it in the right place and at the right moment you need it, and that's how they create value. I can go into a supermarket. I know exactly where something is, and I will also know where to expect it. So I used to be into, what was it, Bass, English muffins. I don't eat them anymore. I'm on a keto diet. But Bass, they were like my number one. I went into Lowe's and they weren't there. And one of the guys passed by and said, "Can I help you, sir?" I said, "Oh, you're out of Bass." He said, "Yeah, we stopped selling them." I went, "Too bad." And a week later, they were back. Okay. So yeah, sometimes they listen. So this is the downstream members. What do the upstream members get? Imagine, now, there are some cultures that love doing this, but imagine that every time you bought something, you had to bargain for it and negotiate for it. So just imagine any street vendor in any location you care to think of who is basically bartering with you with what the price should be for an item. At some point, it gets to be exhausting and even destruction. What an upstream channel member does is they get to make the transactions routine. You can minimize the cost of things if the transactions are constant. Not only that, but if I can reduce the number of steps by studying the routine, because that's an even bigger thing. The advantage of a routine means is that you can, what's the word? There's an old term that used to be called a thirbling, and a thirbling is basically anything that gets in the way of efficiency. The movie Cheaper by the Dozen, by the way, is about a true person who is an efficiency expert. He's the one who came up with that thought. Real person. Anyway, the routinization of transactions allows you to create efficiencies and have greater advantages. And the other thing that you can do is you reduce the number of contacts, because every contact is a way in which the transactions can be jammed up. So what happens? Intermediaries make things efficient by becoming unique bottlenecks and help all of the transactions along. So the advantage of disintermediation on our phones is a disadvantage, especially the more complex the decisions are. Ask your parents, what was it like the first time they bought a house? All right. The average house takes 8 weeks from selling from beginning to end. It involves 140 pages generally. That's up from like 50 when I bought my first house. It requires lawyers, brokers, agents, and multiple people in the list. Okay. And it's a mess. Okay. But without those individuals, quite simply, complex things could not exist because they have the efficiencies and understanding of what it takes to get the job done beginning to end. So let's see. I'm going to show this last one. And let's see something here. I'm going to try. Let's see. Can I do that? Yeah, I think I can. All right, let me try something. So let's call these mom and pop stores, convenience stores. And instead of manufacturers, let's make these the 4 sin categories. Let's see, soft drinks, alcohol, cigarettes. Oh, let me go crazy. Vaping. All right. Anyway, so you got the 4 sins. You know what? Let me make that candy. That's some sin for you. So anyway, so just think about these mom and pop stores. These mom and pops need to be able to get all of the things that they need at one time. But the problem is, especially, let's say for the soft drink, they don't sell by the 6-pack. They sell by the pallet, all right? And a pallet can be about 6 feet tall and about 4 feet square on either side. And that's how they sell it. How can they possibly raise the capital, a small mom and pop store, to be able to do that? When you have this many lines, you have 40 lines of communication that have to go back and forth between these groups. It means that each one of these individuals has to be negotiated with. Each one of these individuals has to come up with minimum buys. And look what happens to all of the mom and pop stores. Collectively, they have strength. Individually, they have practically none. So what do we do, or how can we solve this problem? This is how you do it. I almost got it right. Okay. Soft drinks. So what you have is you have a wholesaler. Okay. You have a wholesaler, and their job and what they do is they focus, specialize on one group and one group alone, and it's mom and pop stores. They study these individuals on the bottom here. They collect data for how much they need at what given time. It helps them think like like mom and pop stores, and they are able to negotiate for the mom and pop stores. It means this also is that each one of these mom and pop stores can send all their requests upstream to the wholesaler. The wholesaler, with economies of scale, can negotiate the best contract for collectively all of the mom and pop stores. They can buy in bulk, they can break into lots, do the assorting and the accumulating and storing, do all of that for the mom and pop stores, and the mom and pop stores get 6-packs instead of pallets. And that is the success. And that is why more people in the system can actually make it more efficient. Efficient systems have these kind of capabilities. We're talking about Western cultures. The interesting thing is that Eastern cultures, you may find channels 6 or 7 layers deep. Just depends. But this is what we consider the acceptable thing. So think about it as a mom and pop store. As a mom and pop, I don't have to worry about excessive amounts that I have to be able to sell. I don't even have to buy ahead, do forward buying, because everything is there. I could even do this. I could buy a year's worth of inventory, and I can do it in lots, which is called a continuous replenishment program, which means that I've already had those goods and they can send it to me when I need to. And so this is the essence of an efficient marketing channel system. And in each one of these, you have them doing what marketing does, listening to the consumers. The warehouse people are listening to their mom and pop stores. The mom and pop stores are listening to the consumers who are coming into their stores. The value or the demand that each one of those has drives the requirements upstream. The requirements upstream go to the manufacturers. Voila, you have a great system. This is why channels, even if we go through disintermediaries, especially the complexity of things, a more complex system demands more specialists. Okay? All right, I've run out of voice, and so have you. Let's all go home for the weekend. And I will finish with chapter 1 on Tuesday, start moving into chapter 2, and I'll talk about my surgery on Wednesday. Y'all have a great weekend.